Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. Now apologies for being Captain Obvious here, but I think it's fair to say that opinions change over time. We're only human after all. If as a person you just remained stagnant, immovable, unshakable in your beliefs and perspectives, well, there's something wrong with you. Change is inevitable, whether it be good or bad. And I myself have changed. How so, you may ask? Well, I went from being someone who just really liked Monster Hunter to someone who now really truly loves Monster Hunter, and it has easily become one of my favorite video game franchises of all time, and I really truly believe that everyone should play a Monster Hunter game. Let me tell you why. After Monster Hunter Rise and its expansion, Sunbreak, came out on PC this year, 2022, I, myself, as someone who really enjoyed the previous game in the series, Monster Hunter World and its expansion, Iceborne, of course, I was interested in this new title. So I purchased Monster Hunter Rise and its expansion, Sunbreak, played through the whole package, and for the most part, really enjoyed myself. However, once I got to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak's endgame, something interesting happened. Something that, the best I can recall from my limited memory, is something that's never happened before. I began to have an overwhelming craving and urge to go back and play Monster Hunter World, which for me personally is just a very strange feeling. I'm usually compelled to play the next new exciting game that interests me, or finally getting around to playing something that's been collecting dust in my backlog for far too long. To give you more of an idea, let me provide you with some examples. When I played Elden Ring this year, I didn't feel a craving to go back and play the older Dark Souls games. And last year, with Halo Infinite, after I had played and beat that game, I didn't feel a craving to go back and play the older Halo games. But for some reason, once I rolled the credits on Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, I felt a craving similar to craving one of your favorite foods or favorite drinks. I felt a craving to go back and play Monster Hunter World Iceborne. And so, I did. And as I've been replaying Monster Hunter World Iceborne these past few months, for some reason I cannot explain, well actually maybe I can, the game has become one of my all-time favorites. I've truly found a whole new appreciation for the game and have truly fallen in love with it. But not just this particular game. All of Monster Hunter. I've started looking up information about the series, the franchise as a whole, the older games, the history of Monster Hunter. And it's a fascinating study. What developer and publisher Capcom has done with this franchise is truly extraordinary. There is nothing else like Monster Hunter. In the 18 years, almost 2 decades, this franchise has been around with over a dozen games released. They have all received critical acclaim and been beloved by fans. How many other video game franchises even come close to sharing that kind of legacy? I really truly hope that one day we get ports of all the old Monster Hunter games to PC so many more people can experience what the old school hardcore Monster Hunter fans originally fell in love with. In the meantime, however, we have the most accessible titles to the public, Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise. They're also the only Monster Hunter games I've played, so we'll be focusing on those two for this video. Now, why do I say everyone should play Monster Hunter? Well, there's quite a few reasons, but let's focus on the most important ones. Starting with, they're some of the best co-op games ever made. I don't get to play Monster Hunter with friends often, but when I do, it's always a blast. The Monster Hunter games are such a perfect platform for epic badass moments with your friends, or just non-stop shenanigans and goofing around. Whether it's World and Iceborne or Rise and Sunbreak, you can play Monster Hunter how you want to play it, casually or hardcore. There's this unfortunate misconception for many that Monster Hunter is a super challenging game that requires a lot of time and dedication, that its difficulty is on par with a Souls-like game, when that's simply not the case. Yes, you can sink a lot of hours into a Monster Hunter game. Yes, there are difficult challenges in Monster Hunter games, but Monster Hunter is not exclusively that. It's so much more, especially when you throw co-op and friends into the mix. In one moment, you and your mates could be exploring one of the open world levels, collecting resources, discovering secrets, capturing wildlife, perhaps studying, tracking, and learning about one of the monsters that roams this area. The next moment, if you and your mates are up for it, you could take on a high rank or master quest. Try to hunt down and slay an elder dragon. An epic battle filled with nail-biting close calls, intense back and forths, and probably a lot of expletives being thrown around. And in the very next moment, you and your friends might be in the Gathering Hub, having some drinks, arm wrestling, goofing around with the variety of emotes, maybe showing off to each other all the new armor and weapons that you just crafted. And these select moments are just a few examples of some of the crazy adventures you can have with friends in Monster Hunter games, which is only further aided by what I consider to be an underrated topic of discussion and selling point of the Monster Hunter games: team roles and team synergy. In Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise, there are 14 different weapon types, which one obviously allows for immense replayability, as all 14 of these different weapon types play completely differently from one another. So finding your preferred favorite weapon or weapons is a huge part of the Monster Hunter experience, especially in how it enables a player to develop their own personal playstyle. For example, we have a weapon type like the Hunting Horn, which specializes in both healing and buffing yourself and teammates, essentially making you a support class, which can be further iterated upon depending on what items you bring to support your weapon type, like various AoE healing and buffing items. Sure, Mercy from Overwatch is cool and all, but does she have a giant guitar made out of the scales and bones of a dragon that plays music that heals allies? Nah, I didn't think so. However, this is but one of many examples. There are so many different ways to play and experience Monster Hunter. More interested in blocking than dodging? Have a preference for being the tank in a party? Then take the lance or gun lance weapons. Are you a fan of third-person melee action games? Consider the sword and shield, the longsword, or the dual blades. Maybe you're not a fan of melee games at all and prefer shooters. That's fine. You can play Monster Hunter games as a third-person shooter by taking the bow or bow guns. The Monster Hunter games are one of the very few franchises that offer this level of gameplay and playstyle variety. Now, this is a bit of an odd comparison, I know, but stick with me here. Looking at another one of the greatest co-op video games of all time, Deep Rock Galactic. Depending on what class you pick, what weapons you bring, your loadout and build, even though you're technically still playing the same first-person shooter, you can still have dynamically varying different gameplay experiences, from combat to movement to interactions with your teammates. All of that also applies to Monster Hunter. Another aspect that both Deep Rock Galactic and Monster Hunter share is that every teammate is valuable and can contribute in their own unique way. I already mentioned the Hunting Horn weapon earlier, which can provide healing and buffs, but then we have a unique DPS support weapon like the Hammer, which is all about dealing massive amounts of blunt damage to a monster's head, stunning the beast, and leaving it open and vulnerable for other teammates to attack various other weak points, or provide teammates with valuable time and breathing room to heal up and prepare. Another example, players who decide to keep at range with a bow weapon can apply different coatings to their arrows, allowing them to continuously apply various debuffs to monsters such as poison, paralysis, sleep, and blast. The primary gist of what I'm getting at here is that every weapon type, every playstyle is useful and contributes greatly in co-op and team play. And because there's so many different weapons and so many different playstyles, you can have a near limitless variety of ways for synergy and teamwork. Again, I'll reiterate, like I stated at the start of this whole tangent, the Monster Hunter games are truly some of the best co-op games of all time. However, that's merely just one of the few of what I would argue to be the most important reasons why everyone should play a Monster Hunter game. Another, and probably the most obvious reason, is in the title of the games: the monsters. Video games are no stranger to a wide array of fantastical fictional creatures. They're one of the primary factors as to why I adore video games so much. I just love fictional creatures and monsters and monstrosities. Seeing the creativity of artists made manifest and come to life. So as you can imagine, the Monster Hunter games are an absolute spectacle in that regard. The monsters of Monster Hunter are some of the most creative, detailed, defined, and refined fictional creatures ever constructed, animated, and put on the big screen. The animations are so meticulous, you'd swear they were motion captured from real living animals. The sound design, the sounds these monsters make, so surprisingly realistic and grounded, making these beasts all the more believable. Lastly, there's their immensely immersive AI behaviors. Monsters have various patterns, lifestyles, day-to-day routines. They'll sleep, hunt for food, mark territory, fight with other monsters. It's truly an impressive sight. There's very few video games with this much emphasis on realistic, even if still fictional, portrayals of ecology. If you're a wildlife biologist or just have a fleeting interest in the subject matter, then Monster Hunter will be a treat for you. However, everything I've discussed so far concerning the monsters is mostly focused on aesthetics. Mechanically, from a gameplay perspective, the monsters in Monster Hunter are some of the best boss battles you can find in video games. Think of some of the most beloved and critically acclaimed video game franchises that are praised for their boss battles: Dark Souls, Legend of Zelda, Shadow of the Colossus. The monsters of Monster Hunter take various inspirations and elements of the best boss battles throughout gaming, learning attack patterns, utilizing the environment to your advantage, using the tools in your arsenal to creatively counter the boss in various ways, and of course, targeting and prioritizing specific weak points. Just like how these games have so many different weapon types available for players that everyone will find their favorite, their preference, the most fun way to play for them, there are enough different monsters that everyone will find their favorites. The monsters that just click for them. Perhaps it's the monster's visual design. Maybe it's its theme music. Could be that you find its attack patterns very readable, or just fun to learn and master and overcome. Whatever the reasons may be, you will find your favorite monsters in any particular Monster Hunter game, the monsters that you love to fight, over and over again. Think of it as something in a similar vein to your favorite maps in your favorite multiplayer games, or your favorite campaigns in a co-op game like Left 4 Dead. Those maps, those missions, those levels that are just structured in such a way that you just enjoy them so much that you don't mind playing them over and over again. This applies to finding your favorite monsters in Monster Hunter as well. I'd describe it as finding a rhythm, a feeling, an experience that fighting a certain monster provides that you just want to have over and over again. Something akin to listening to your favorite music on repeat, or rewatching your favorite movie. Sure, you've listened to or watched this multiple times, but maybe in this session you'll pick up a little detail that you hadn't noticed before. Find and develop new appreciations, new perspectives. For example, one of my favorite monsters in Monster Hunter World is the Anjanath, this fire-breathing T-Rex. I have fought and killed this monster so many times, and yet I still continue to fight him and still continue to have brand new experiences fighting him. You see, Anjanath is a monster that can appear in multiple areas. He's not limited to a single biome like some other monsters. And let me tell you, fighting Anjanath in the Wild Spire Wastes is a completely different experience to fighting him in the Ancient Forest, which is a completely different experience to fighting him in the Hoarfrost Reach. And there are still new and exciting experiences I can have fighting Anjanath, because I've only fought Anjanath with only a few different weapon types. There are several weapons I have never battled Anjanath with, which I know for a fact would completely alter how I would engage him in a fight. That's the beautiful thing about Monster Hunter games. There are just layers upon layers of depth that you can dig into if you want to. Yes, the Monster Hunter games are full of hardcore content, endgame monsters that are incredibly challenging, that will test your skills to their limits, but you're not required to fight them to experience all of the content Monster Hunter has to offer. There's a variety of optional quests with varying difficulties to pick from. And then there's event quests you can play, which range from unique challenges to just some silly, goofy scenarios, which usually provide special, one-of-a-kind rewards. All of this is to say, while the title of the games may be Monster Hunter, the actual hunting of these monsters is a surprisingly replayable and customizable personal experience. Now, finally, we come to what I would argue to be one of, if not the most important reason why everyone should play a Monster Hunter game, especially Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise. You can create and customize your own personal cat and dog companions. Come on, man, look at how fucking cute this is. Oh, and the cherry on top, in Monster Hunter World, you also get a pet pig, while in Monster Hunter Rise, you also get a pet owl. Don't you want to play dress up with your own virtual pets and then take them out on hunts to fight giant monsters? I know you do. So, yeah, that's why I believe everybody, absolutely everyone, should play a Monster Hunter game. Especially, in particular, my friends. As I would really like to play Monster Hunter World with you guys and girls. Please? I just want to know what happiness feels like again, man. Hell, you know what? If I have to, I'll just settle for playing Dauntless. It's free to play, there's no paywall, so there's no excuse. I just want to play monster hunting games with my friends. I ask for so little. But alas, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, share the video on social media, Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook. Consider hitting the notification bell, and if you want to help out and support me directly, please consider donating via a YouTube Super Thanks or clicking the link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description down below. Anyways, once again, that's been a video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.